Good morning. It is a snowy December 24th and Christmas is almost here. When I reflect on all that has happened, not just in the past weeks, but in what God has done continuing through my life, I'm thankful for what I've gotten to see and enjoy. And that the things are still far from over with what God has in store. Transition from one thing to the next can be like cliff jumping, where you're unsure of whether you're supposed to make the jump or someone just comes behind you and pushes you, and for the next few moments you wonder if that was a good decision or not. Regardless, time doesn't stop, and I'm wanting to share what my thoughts would be on concluding a story that I had started back in November when I was still on staff. So a while back we were building on this Advent theme, and the idea came that we should tell a story that links through all the Advent themes, and the theme was based on home. And so it was an easy theme to build upon because home builds into so many songs, so many stories, so many movies around Christmas time that it practically writes itself. And I think it would just bring nice warmth and unity for where I thought we were going to be going. So I created the story back in October, November kind of era, with perspectives on this family that we were going to share stories from each generation for each Advent night. I was given the first service because this was mostly my idea, and my story was going to be the platform that the other stories picked off. So I started off with the parents, with Janine and Benson, and their stories building off of memories that they were sharing with their kids, Justin, Laura, and Colton, as well as Benson's father, Elliot, being there. And their stories built on stories that were before their kids' times, about their lives back east in Toronto, to which now they live in Maidstone, Saskatchewan, and building upon this whole thing that Janine and Benson wanted their family to be appreciative of what they have and some of the things that they've faced together as a family. And so by the second Advent, we were building on this theme, and we had the story or perspective from Elliot. And with Elliot's case, he's separated from his wife Gwyneth, and was sharing stories with the family about some of the things that he and Benson faced during some of those tough years where home was kind of missing a key essential part for their family, but still home nonetheless. The third Advent Sunday was by the time I was already removed from staff and on my own journey of what finding a new home meant for me and my family. But I trust that there's still that sense being built with the memories being the Sunday, that the memories that the kids would be sharing onto that. And so now that it's Christmas Eve, I've just been thinking about how this story would conclude or how it would end. And I know that probably Southridge would be concluding this with their Christmas Eve service and tying a nice bow on it and doing it justice. But the beautiful thing about stories is that there's always a perspective or different sides from different characters, and especially if you have multiple writers working on it. So really all I want to do in these next few moments is conclude what my thoughts would be of how I would see this story not necessarily end, but the perspective and the point of why we started writing this in the first place. And so if you want, continue watching, and I'll share my thoughts of how this story would end. It had been 3 years later since that Christmas that the family had shared memories, to which it was 6 years now that the Krause family had moved back to Maidstone, Saskatchewan, Benson's home, from Toronto, Ontario. It would be foolish to predict that the world's events have been solved or that COVID is no longer a thing. So we'll just focus on the things we do know. Justin is now practicing for his license, and Laura takes skating lessons at the same rink that Benson and Janine had begun kindling their relationship. Colton is obsessed with the golden retriever that the family had gotten at Christmas 3 years ago when they started this tradition of sharing Christmas memories. They still keep in touch with the families back home east, but have made several new connections here, to which Laura would be spending a girls' night this coming Friday, only if she completed her homework. Elliot and Gwen have been talking more and processing what kind of relationship they have over the many years of deep downs, but also deep highs, one of which is their son Benson and his family. Benson is still wisecracking and making jokes whenever he can, and Janine is still one step ahead of him, especially when it comes to the family movie night and the debate rises for what they should watch. The family shows appreciation even more for the sense of home, because for many of us, home can really depend on the place or the memories attached to it. Janine is just starting to feel more relaxed being involved with church activities, as she was heavily invested in her previous church back east. Benson knows his hometown, but each year it seems that it is slowly shrinking as people move on, or pass, or just fall out of touch. It is probably why he takes more initiative for family time, because that is where home means so much to him. The Krause family can be whatever theme that you need it to be, because they were simply made up one evening for a season of connected Advent themes. I like to think that I'm like Benson, but I can identify with the fears and the joys of all the characters, because to a certain extent I have seen the different sides that they have faced. So how would you end or continue this story? Does Elliot get back together with Gwen? Does life get more serious by an accident that will shape the future of the family? No matter what our imaginations, it comes back to us and our stories and what home means to us. We have faced tough situations and had good times too. I think for me personally, this Christmas, I would end the story by simply saying that they do indeed live happily for multiple generations. Not that it would be a great story by any means, but that it just feels good. Goodness can be in short supply if we choose to be cynical. So instead, share what is good and develop that theme of home for you and your family. It will go a long way than just dwelling on what is bad or the things we're missing out on. Go into a new year with hope and the infectious goodness that widens our idea that there is no place like home. So thank you for listening, and thank you for just all the kindness that people have shared these last couple weeks. And I hope that you all have a Merry, Merry Christmas.